It's day 21, and I'm on the brink of quitting. This 30-day self-care journey was meant to uplift me, but here I am, feeling worse than ever. You might be curious how I ended up in this spot. How did a mission for mindfulness and personal growth take me to a breaking point I never expected? To understand, we need to travel back in time. Just 30 days ago, my life was chaotic. I was completely burned out. My days were a whirlwind of deadlines, pings, and way too much takeout. I felt constantly anxious, thanks to caffeine and a heavy dose of FOMO from social media. Sleep was laughable, my diet was worse, and my version of self-care was just binge-watching shows until I couldn't keep my eyes open. I felt disconnected from my body, my mind, and even from life itself. I knew it was time for a change. I didn't want a minor tweak, I craved a complete reset. So, I devised a 30-day self-care challenge, one that didn't hold back. Each week, I'd stack new habits on top of the ones from the previous week, hoping to build a mountain of discipline that would lead to genuine well-being. This wasn't just about bubble baths and face masks, I aimed for a total life overhaul. Little did I know, the path to feeling good would first drag me straight through hell. Section 1, The Call to Adventure, Week 1. What were the parameters of this wild challenge? It was structured around 4 pillars, one for each week. The first week focused on physical wellness. This involved 2 main tasks. First, at least 30 minutes of intentional movement every day, no exceptions. A walk, run, or home workout, whatever it took. The goal? Consistency. Second, I needed to practice mindful eating, which meant no screens at meal times. No TV, phone, or laptop, just me and my food, paying attention to taste, texture, and what my body was signaling about hunger or fullness. The first day kicked off with excitement. I woke up early, slipped into my running shoes, and went for a jog. It was tough and I gasped for breath, but I felt good. Proud, even. Breakfast followed, where I sat at my kitchen table, bones stowed away, and simply ate. It felt strange. Quite uncomfortable. I realized how quickly I usually devour meals. The silence during this meal drew my attention to the flavors in my oatmeal, particularly the cinnamon. Just sitting there and eating was surprisingly challenging. My mind craved distractions. Throughout that week, daily movement became my lifeline. Even on days when I was drained, I made myself go for a walk. It's well known that walking lifts your mood and reduces depression risk, and I felt that benefit firsthand. Getting outside, even briefly, always brightened my day. However, mindful eating was a struggle. I discovered I often used meals to multitask, catching up on emails, scrolling through social media, or watching videos. Eating without a screen felt like a waste of precious time. I was restless and fidgety, my hand reaching for my phone as if it was a missing limb. This brought to light a habit I didn't even realize was so ingrained. I began to see patterns in my eating that I had previously ignored. I often ate out of boredom or stress, not real hunger. Practicing mindfulness, simply being aware of the present without judgment, was truly transformative. Gradually, and I mean very gradually, I felt more in control rather than just acting on impulses. By the end of the first week, I felt noticeably stronger and proud of my commitment to moving my body. Yet mentally, I was just beginning to grasp the magnitude of what lay ahead. The initial thrill had faded, swapped for the dawning dread that this was going to be so much tougher than I had anticipated. Section 2, Tests, Allies, and Enemies. Week 2. Then came Week 2. I had to maintain daily movement and mindful eating while stacking on 2 new habits. This week's focus was on mental and emotional hygiene. First, I needed a strict sleep schedule. In bed by 10:30 p.m. and waking up at 6:30 a.m. every day, even on weekends. The second new habit was a nightly gratitude journal. Before bed, I would jot down 3 specific things I was grateful for my day. On paper, it seemed simple enough. In actual practice, though, it turned my life upside down. The sleep schedule posed the first real challenge. My nights were typically a free-for-all, staying up late watching just one more episode and hitting snooze endlessly. Forcing myself to bed by 10:30 felt like punishment. My body resisted it. I would lie there, staring at the ceiling, while my mind raced. I was used to screens lulling my brain to sleep, but in the quiet dark, I was left alone with my thoughts. That was disconcerting. Yet, a consistent sleep schedule is essential for mental health. It helps regulate mood, reduce stress, and improve focus. I understood this on an intellectual level, but experiencing it was an entirely different story. The first few mornings of 6:30 a.m. were like being a zombie, lost in a fog. Surprisingly, the gratitude journal became my unexpected ally. Initially, it felt so cheesy. I'm grateful for coffee. I'm grateful for my cat. But I had to be specific. Coffee transformed into, I'm grateful for the aroma of coffee brewing this morning when I felt like a train wreck. My cat turned into, I appreciate how my cat curled up on my lap. This tiny shift held great power. Research indicates practicing gratitude can genuinely alter your brain, sharpening its ability to focus on the positive. It urges you to examine your day for those little bright moments. Plus, it helps alleviate stress, providing a calmer mindset right before sleep. By the end of week 2, a peculiar synergy began to emerge. The daily walks exhausted me, making it easier to sleep. The gratitude journaling calmed my busy mind, which also aided sleep. And consistently sleeping helped boost my energy for more walks. Yet, juggling 4 significant daily habits felt overwhelming. Life had become a rigid cycle of tasks, checklists to tick off. Spontaneity? Almost non-existent. One night, a friend called, and I had to cut the conversation short for bedtime. I passed on a movie night with friends. My old habits, the junk food, lazy mornings, and mind-numbing screen time at dinner, were like chaotic opponents yelling from the sidelines. I was locked in an inner battle, and I still had half the journey to go. Week 3 loomed, and it was the one I dreaded the most. Section 3, The Ordeal. Week 3. This is where things truly began spiraling. Week 3 introduced the third pillar, digital minimalism. The rules were ruthless, a total digital detox from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. every day. No phone, no laptop, no TV, nothing. And this was added on top of my daily movement, mindful eating, strict sleep schedule, and gratitude journaling. As soon as I implemented the rule, my carefully constructed house of cards started teetering. The first night of the detox was utterly chaotic. At 7 p.m., I turned off my phone and tucked it away. The silence felt overwhelming. I experienced phantom alerts every few minutes. I paced my apartment, unsure how to spend my time. I had forgotten how to simply be present. We know that stepping back from constant connectivity reduces stress, but for me, that stillness felt excruciatingly dull. I picked up a book, read the same page 4 times, then gave up. Cleaning? I tried that too. I stared out the window, feeling restless and isolated. My brain, wired to crave constant notifications and endless scrolling, was in full-on rebellion. That moment nearly broke me. The weight of all these habits became unsettling. My day felt like a never-ending triathlon of discipline. Wake up at 6:30. Walk for 30 minutes. Mindful breakfast. Work. Mindful lunch. More work. Mindful dinner. And then at 7 p.m., silence would descend. All my usual relaxation methods vanished. No scrolling, no favorite shows, no texting friends. The evening stretched out before me like an endless void. And finally, we hit day 21. I was 3 days into the digital detox and 3 weeks into the challenge. I sat on my sofa, staring at a blank wall, and despair washed over me. I felt exhausted, lonely, and incredibly irritable. I didn't feel enlightened or rejuvenated, I felt trapped by my own rules. This is absurd, I thought, this isn't making me happy, it's making me miserable. I was so close to ordering a huge pizza and binge watching a season of something until I passed out. I almost wanted to abandon the entire experiment. The mental strain was overwhelming. All the gains I had felt during the first 2 weeks evaporated under the sheer weight of it all. I reached my lowest point, genuinely thinking I had made a massive mistake and would fail. That night, I went to bed with dread about what the next day would bring. 1 week left, and for the first time, I wasn't so sure I could finish. Section 4, the reward, the breakthrough. Funny enough, something shifted after I almost broke on day 21. On day 22, I woke up expecting the same dread, but instead, I felt calm. The noisy resistance in my head had softened to a whisper. I didn't feel extraordinary, but quitting didn't seem like an option anymore. I just felt accepting. So, I went through the motions. I went for a walk, had breakfast, tackled work, and when 7 p.m. struck, I stowed my phone away. But this time, instead of battling boredom, I embraced it. I played music and finally completed that book I had wrestled with. Sure, the evening stretched on, but it wasn't painful, it felt peaceful. Over the following days, the breakthrough unfolded. It wasn't like a sudden epiphany. More like gradually watching a sunrise. You don't notice the specific second it gets light out. The combined habits that felt so heavy began sinking in this remarkable way. My body finally accepted the sleep schedule. I woke up at 6:30 before my alarm, feeling refreshed. Free from nightly digital distractions, my mind felt clearer and less confused. What used to be a chore, my daily walks, became something I genuinely looked forward to. I felt stronger and more energetic. I started noticing the world anew, the changing leaves, the crisp morning air. And the digital detox, which nearly crushed me, turned out to be the gateway to everything else. By eliminating the constant, low-level distractions, I created mental space. Space for my thoughts to wander and for my creativity to flourish. I revived my love for writing, something I hadn't done for myself in ages. My focus at work felt laser-sharp. Problems that once felt daunting now seemed doable. I was less reactive, calmer. My emotional baseline shifted from anxiety to tranquility. Mindful eating transformed from a chore into a joy. I could genuinely savor my food, leading me to cook tastier, healthier meals just for the pleasure of it. The final pillar for week 4 focused on connection and contribution, performing one kind act each day. For the first time, I had the mental space to do this. I called my mom just to check in. I sent a care package to a friend. I tipped my barista a little more than usual. These small gestures, fueled by my newfound clarity, created an amazing positive cycle. Research supports the connection between gratitude and kindness. Feeling thankful often encourages you to pass it on, leading to stronger relationships and improved happiness. I wasn't trapped by rigid rules anymore. I was living with intention. The transformation was profound, more extreme than I could have ever anticipated. I didn't just feel a bit better, I felt like a brand new person. Section 5, the results, the road back and resurrection. So, after 30 days of this wild journey, what were the results? Let's break it down. Before this challenge, I was running on empty. I weighed about 15 pounds more than I wanted, my sleep was erratic, maybe 5 or 6 patchy hours each night. My screen time? Embarrassingly, 6 to 7 hours daily, excluding work. I mostly consumed processed food and my mind was constantly anxious. Fast forward 30 days, and the contrast was shocking. Physically, I shed 12 pounds without counting calories. This wasn't a diet, it was a byproduct of mindful eating and cutting out mindless snacks. My energy soared, I no longer relied on that mid-afternoon coffee. Mentally, the change was dramatic. My once chaotic thoughts evolved into calm clarity. My focus? Sky high. The digital detox effectively rewired my attention span. Emotionally, I felt tougher. Situations that once would have sent me spiraling, like a critical email or a last-minute change, now felt like minor hiccups. My general mood was simply happy. Content. The gratitude journal transformed my outlook, shifting my view from what I lacked to what I possessed. Re-entering normal life was an intriguing test. The challenge had ended, and the rules were gone. Could I maintain this momentum? The first weekend back, I stayed up late to catch a movie. The next morning, I felt sluggish and foggy, and that familiar sensation struck hard. It was my before state. I detested it. I realized the challenge wasn't merely about forcing new habits, it offered an education. It taught me how my choices directly affect how I feel. With the knowledge I gained, I knew what energized me and what drained me. So, I refused to revert to my old ways. Yet, I also didn't cling to the overbearing structure of the challenge. Instead, I forged a new balance. I still put my phone away an hour before sleep. I still move my body daily, as I enjoy it now. I still eat most meals without a screen. I crafted a fresh routine, one that's flexible yet intentional. Conclusion: return with the elixir. So, was the 30-day self-care challenge that almost broke me worth it? Absolutely, 100%. But not for the reasons I expected. I embarked on this quest seeking a quick fix to my burnout. Instead, I discovered a profound understanding of myself. The challenge succeeded, not solely because 30 days is a magic number. It's a myth that it takes only 21 days to form a habit. Research indicates the average is closer to 66 days. It thrived because it was an intense period of self-exploration. The real elixir, the most valuable lesson I took away from this, is that effective self-care often revolves around subtraction rather than addition. It's about eliminating the noise, distractions, and habits that quietly sap your energy. It's about creating space for your mind and body to facilitate the healing and growth they know how to manage. The real magic emerged from the aspects I cut out: the mindless scrolling, chaotic eating, and erratic sleep. That's where the transformation truly happened. If you're feeling burnt out and contemplating something similar, my advice is simple: don't even think of replicating my intense approach unless you're ready for a tough journey. Start small. Choose one thing. Perhaps putting your phone away during meals. Or maybe committing to a daily 15-minute walk. Stick with it, tune into how it affects you, and then build on that. Perfection isn't the goal, intention is. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever tried a 30-day challenge? What's one habit that made a significant impact on your well-being? This journey was one of the hardest tasks I've ever undertaken, but it restored my life. It was a deliberate demolition of my old self to pave the way for something far better. And that transformation? It's absolutely worth fighting for.